All right, it's time to try and finish the B case. In all seriousness, you'll notice that I got rid of a bunch of stuff and bought a bunch of stuff, as is the system that I've got going. So I thought I would just record the process of me installing some of the things, talking about the logic behind some of the decisions I made, and bring you along with that, and maybe patch it up for the first time and record that as well, see how it sounds. So if you're interested, stay tuned. All right, so first, what did I sell and what did I decide to get rid of? Maybe a little controversial right off the bat, but down here, and originally this was in my A case, but I booted it to the B case, and then I decided it just wasn't worth it to hold on to anymore. It was a cold Mac. Super sought after in terms of modular, not one of the most rare things, but it's kind of hard to find sometimes. Some people really love it. I just kind of bounced off of it. It wasn't for me. So enjoy it, whoever bought that off of me. Also took some of the 1U things out of here and moved them over in my little pallet case way over there, because I have some room still for 1U models kind of on deck. But then I also have, I guess I haven't sold yet, my EAS from Instruo, little logic module, which I think might come back into play at some point. But then I also have, let's see, Faco ST Mix is out of here. My FM radio module is over in my pallet case on deck. And then the broken tape from Air Instruments is listed and waiting for somebody to buy right now. I've also sold some things in my A case and have a new edition on its way to try and refine that, which I'll talk about in another video once it gets here. But first, let's kind of rearrange some things. I think I'll put a link to the modular grid of this case in the description in case you're curious and want to actually see some of the details in the modules. But I want to talk just a little bit about what I was after. First, one of the things that is going to be different here is this 1U row is going to actually slide over a little bit. That's mainly to make room for a 1/4-inch headphone out, which is sitting in this case right here. And that's really because I want my two cases to be independent but work together. So I have the option for just taking this case with me and nothing else, and still using my headphones, which I'm always using a 1/4-inch jack anyway, and so I want a 1/4-inch out. I don't have to deal with a stereo 2 cable to 1 adaptery thing, and I don't use the cockpit as my final module, so this headphone out right here really does not help me whatsoever. Also, another bone to pick with endorphins. In the manual for the cockpit, in the 3U version, there's a jumper on the back to switch this first stereo channel to accept a mono input and put it in both left and right. It doesn't exist on the 1U. So I've got this little mono to stereo converter that just lives there to do that for me, which is a little annoying. So I wish that they added that jumper to this, or at least described in the manual that it's different. But anyway, so I've got the 1U headphone out from IntelliGel. Nothing fancy at all here, so let's just get that over with. One of the things that I do when I rearrange these cases is typically remove most, if not all, of the knurlies, which is what I've got right now. Everything's just kind of loose, sliding around. And that's partially because when you've got this 1U row in the middle, it can be often pretty tricky to get to power if you don't lift a module and put something back. Most of these down here aren't going to move, but I'm not sure if I need to get to power just yet. So I'll undo everything, and it's pretty quick to just put them all back into place. So for starters, there's that headphone out that's going to live there. I'm keeping the dual 100 grits for now, although I'll talk about my decision there and the kind of dilemma that I have maybe in a little bit. Oops, that's backwards. Let's not fry the thing before I get to use it. There we go. All right, one down. The next piece, let's just do the other 1U module because we can finish that row out. It's something that I was kind of looking for a while in Eurorack, and I don't know exactly when it came out. I think it was fairly new based on seeing links that call it as a pre-order on various retailers. But it's the stereo crossfader, like with a DJ crossfader, like an actual proper crossfader. I do really, really like the Axis that's over in my A case from WMD, which is a CV controlled dual stereo crossfader, which is fantastic. But I always wanted 1-in-1U because it's the perfect format and orientation for an actual traditional crossfader, not something that is on a knob, just for that extra kind of added playability. I'm tempted to actually mount this upside down so that I have the crossfader all the way on the left here and a little bit easier to access. But I think for starters, so I bump the camera, I'm going to do it just the normal way, see how annoying that is, and then go from there. There we go. And then let's just pop this right down here. Wonderful. I like to get all the power in place first, get everything happy, and then slowly work on the sliding nuts and the knurlies, which I probably won't record because that can take a little bit of time, but I wanted to at least talk through this initial couple of steps. So the next thing is this gap down here, which is another thing that I've always wanted, which is a joystick. As kind of gimmicky as it is, I do think the act of trying to like make your own instrument with Eurorack means also having a serious kind of conversation with yourself of how you want to interact with it. I think one of the obvious trends or common things is, make it be generative. I don't have to interact with it and it's going to play itself. That can be great and good fun. That's not what I want this case to do. I would not have chosen this sequencer. I would not have chosen almost any of these modules if that was my goal. Maybe Chaos would work really well for that. But I want to be able to play this like an instrument. I want to have to be hands-on with it. I want to have to rehearse with it and actually perform it like any other instrument, like a trumpet or a trombone, my first instrument. So one of the things that I've done with this bottom row, as I've been kind of refining this, is make the entire row, the kind of lower half of all of these modules, the interaction zone, right? So if you have all of these jacks on the top half of these modules, no cables will ever kind of live down here. Some of them, of course, will like bend down and whatnot, especially in this huge band of cables that's going between all the ins and outs of the kind of drum sequencing and drum voice. But I still have all of this space down here. I've got super easy access to sequencing, easy access to adjusting those drum modules, messing with Chaos, playing my stereo filters with Lapsus, and now a kind of up for grabs anywhere I want to add some modulation for the joystick from Erica Synths. So 3 Erica Synths modules now in this, which is great. I like a lot of their stuff. I actually had a sample drum. It's kind of one of the only modules from them that I've bounced off of and sold that. It just wasn't for me, but I do really like what I've got going on here so far. So 2 more left to go. Next is a little boring, but this is one of those things that I've found myself needing by playing this and practicing it. And I think one of those questions that I see asked a lot on at least like the modular subreddit, not that that is an accurate sample of people who are into this niche, is like, I've got this much HP left, what should I get? And I think the answer that I would often give to that is like, you just should practice and play your instrument more, and you'll find out what thing is the most annoying about it and get a module that solves that problem for you. For me, one of the most annoying things was leveraging either the trigger or the sound wave coming from my kick drum as both a voice in my chain and also a signal for sidechaining. Literally just malting that signal. So I finally just bought myself a proper multiple. So of course I need to attach a power cable to this because it is a buffered malt. But yeah, I've got a bunch of stackable cables, but they always crackle for me. And I hate bumping them and half my patch, not working anymore, or the channel falling out, or setting up an entire patch and thinking it's going to work and not being sure why something isn't doing what I expect it to, and it coming down to a bum cable. And stackables just haven't been reliable for me. It might have been because when I got those stackables, my kids played with them quite a bit, so it could be my fault. But I also just don't like them, and that's fine if you like them. That's the whole joy of this hobby and instrument, is that if you like something and somebody else doesn't, that's totally fine, because you don't have to do it their way. I also am going to switch these around. I'm not going to bother moving the power cables. But that way maths and both the envelopes for maths, which is mostly how I use at least the first and fourth channel, can be used as a traditional VCA for Polygogo, and then also the VCA to control and open and close Zagreb, my stereo filter, which is typically how that chain works with these dual VCAs here, which are amazing little modules. If you have a stereo signal path and you have a 1U row, these are killer, because they automatically carry that or normalize the signal path between the top row and the bottom row. So you can just patch in your stereo signal, patch out your stereo signal, and patch in a single cable to control that VCA, and away you go. Don't worry about anything else. So I think I want that mult right there. I might move it eventually. Do I want it over here? Do I want it there instead? Yeah, sure. Let's do that. All right, last but not least, something I've been actually pretty stoked for, and something I've wanted for a long time. And I know I kind of have this in my A case in other ways, but I don't have something dedicated to this. And this is Qubit Nautilus. And what did I want? I wanted a delay. Starlab has a delay component, sure. Beads has a delay mode. I'm not really a modules with modes kind of user. I don't really like to, push a button and have every single function and knob on a module now mean something else. It's probably one of the reasons why I'm not, particularly drawn to the mutable instrument stuff. I do like beads, but I don't have any desire to pick up plates, or however you say it, or a lot of their other modules that have all these different modes. I had a Stages, sold it, did not like it. It was way too annoying to remember what is supposed to do what. So I wanted a delay that does delay and nothing else. And yeah, there's modes and versions of delay in here, but it's not like I can push a button and this is now a granular thing or a wavetable oscillator. Like, I don't need that. I just want a good delay. So this is it. I'm probably going to stop talking and go into knurly mode and use my little twist tie and tin of knurlies to rack everything up. Then we'll power it on, patch it up, and see how this sounds and how this plays, which is kind of the most important part, because I didn't add a whole lot of sound aside from the Nautilus. I had a lot of more modules focused on playability and usability for me. So state of the B case. We'll see what stays. We'll see what goes. Pretty pleased with it so far, to see it in person for the first time. So let's see how it goes. All right, so I attached all the modules, screwed in all the knurlies, and then decided to test some things, including testing my headphone out over here, and got a little carried away. And 2 days later, I run out of patch cables that I would typically use for this case by itself. I am recording out of Nautilus here over into just straight into the 4MS wave recorder off to the side in my A case, but I'm not going through Liberlegio, and I'm not going through the Shackman high pass that I have over there, just because I want this to be kind of a single case, authentic recording, but I just don't feel like hooking up to an audio interface. I'm still going to use 4MS, but I'm not going to use the other modules that augment the sound. So I need to work on a better camera setup because tripod is completely in the way of being able to actually access all of these things, which is another reason I've kind of put off recording this. But let's do a take here and see what things sound like as we actually start playing them. Better than I kind of expected it to be honest. I'm pretty excited. I'm exhausted right now, so my voice doesn't sound like it, but a lot more to come.